Hi, I'm TeriLeigh. I'm a writer, a teacher, and a health and wellness coach. Welcome to my website. Do you remember when playing in your muchness? Yeah, that's a cool word. Muchness was as easy as blowing the fuzz off a dandelion. One day, when I was 10 years old, that dandelion was my mother's old manual typewriter, the one she used in college. It was in the basement of our storage room in our basement, and it became my favorite toy. That day, I made the wish to be a writer one day. But my wish floated off on the clouds with that dandelion fuzz, and when the stress of being a grown-up, it stole my muchness. What I know now is that stress steals almost everyone else's muchness too. Muchness is your brightness, your magic, your passion, your power, your desire to be and live, and to have the fullest experience of life. Well, I let muchness be stolen by the stress of being a grown-up. See, I wanted to be a writer, but I decided a real job wasn't a writer. I couldn't make money that way. So my first real job was a high school English teacher. And because I wasn't writing, I fell into a depression. I'd settled for teaching to make a living because writing wasn't practical. And ignoring my childhood wish, that made me sad, very sad. In order to get off the antidepressants to deal with my head, I started exercising. I tried cardio kickboxing, I did step aerobics, I did weight training, you name it, I did it. I was walking my dog 2 hours a day. I was exercising about 3 or 4 hours a day. Then I was going through spiritual self-help books, going to church, and journaling and studying and all that kind of stuff for my mind and my spirit. After nearly 2 decades, what I discovered was that I was going to school and reading all these books to feed my mind. I was going to the gym and exercising to feed my body, and I was going to church and dealing with meditation and things like that to feed my spirit. But they were all neatly segregated. And it took up like 5 hours a day sometimes to be able to deal with myself and feel my muchness. It was just consuming all of my day, and it was all separate. As many have, and as science and research has proven, I found yoga to be the perfect integration of those three, body, mind, and spirit. When I found yoga, I traded in my gym membership. I poured out all my antidepressant medications, and I sold off all my spiritual self-help books. And I traded all that 5 hours a day of keeping myself healthy for 1 hour on the yoga mat. I built a small name for myself as a yoga teacher. I was traveling around the country, training teachers and meeting with clients one-on-one. I loved how yoga brought out the muchness in these people that I worked with in the yoga room, but I recognized that they couldn't live their whole lives on the mat. And there were moments in their lives and in my own life that I needed it to work now, instantly. And I also recognized that I didn't want to take drugs anymore. And all the other things I was doing, it was still consuming a lot of time. I needed something instant. And I realized that many more students out there would never come to a yoga mat. That a yoga class was intimidating, or it was just too much or too hard to get there. And they would never find that muchness because they wouldn't step on the mat. How could I bring that contented muchness that I felt, that I created with my students on their yoga mats, into everyday life? I developed the Mozi Method to bring muchness into everyday lives, in small, bite-sized pieces, to battle the momentary stresses that arise in all the time of life. I started studying anatomy and physiology. I was researching studies in the neuroplasticity of the brain, and I analyzed the methodology I used to help students learn best. I applied what I learned in teaching as a school teacher, what I learned in yoga as a yoga practitioner, and what I learned in spiritual enlightenment practices and all those self-help books into one simple system. I use that to help my students learn, and the Mozi Method is based on the documents of my findings, analyzing a database of case studies over years, and using myself as a lab rat. By the time I met Mozi the Great Dane and named this system the Mozi Method, I'd had a huge collection of case studies, exercises, and homework assignments, and prescriptions to treat the everyday stresses that people go through. I'd use them on myself. I'd given them to my clients, and it was working. Just do one body action, a deep breath, and a mental intention. Integrate it all into the Mozi Method. So the Mozi, the Great Dane, he gave me the name for my methodology. And so I sat down on my computer and I began writing. And that was when, yes, my muchness completely came back. As I started writing stories and books and details of my process. This website is more than just my writing. It's a blog, it's a school, it's full of stories and lessons and activities, case studies, science and research, assessments and assignments, and so much more. I hope you've stumbled upon this page, you take the time to mosey your way through the overflowing abundance. Take a course, read a blog, listen to a podcast, or call me for a one-on-one, whatever works for you. I'm constantly adding to the site. I'm constantly giving more insight and writing more because that's who I am, a writer first. And through my writing, I teach. And through my teaching, I coach. I'm glad you're here. It means more than one person in this world is willing to share muchness. And if this whole world were filled with people living their muchness, we'd have a very amazing world.